This has been the reaction many Democrats have had about their state of being since November the 8th, 2016. It has been a nonstop meltdown for about 4 months. But it's not just your odd stranger that's reacting this way. Here's Loretta Lynch having her own little meltdown.
I know that this is a time of great fear and uncertainty for so many people. I know it's a time of concern for people who see our rights being assailed, being trampled on, and even being rolled back. I know that this is difficult. But I remind you that this has never been easy. We have always had to work to move this country forward to achieve the great ideals of our founding fathers. And it has been people, individuals who have banded together, ordinary people who simply saw what needed to be done and came together and supported those ideals, who have made the difference. They've marched, they've bled. Yes, some of them have died. This is hard. Every good thing is. We have done this before, we can do this again.
And what's this? Clinton having one too?
Hello, Democrats. Thank you all for coming together to represent our party at its best, united, energized, and ready to wage and win the battles ahead. Now, as Democrats, we have diverse views and backgrounds. We are Democrats, after all. But we're bound together by the values and hopes we share for our country. I'm grateful for all your support and hard work during the election. Being your candidate was the honor of a lifetime. And I was inspired to see women and men from all walks of life and every corner of our country coming together on behalf of our shared values.
Now, you might be asking yourself, well, what is all of this about? Well, by now, I'm sure you're aware of these masterpieces Trump released. Let's read them together. Terrible! Just found out that Obama had my wires tapped in Trump Tower just before the victory. Nothing found. This is McCarthyism. Is it legal for a sitting president to be wiretapping a race for president prior to an election? Turned down by court earlier. A new low. I bet a good lawyer could make a great case out of the fact that President Obama was tapping my phones in October, just prior to the election. How low has President Obama gone to tap, with 2 P's, my phones during the sacred election process? This is Nixon Watergate, bad or sick guy. The 2 statements I think are the most interesting are his McCarthyism and Watergate statements, because this is an interesting combination of both. With all the claims of Trump having ties with Russia, there most certainly is a bit of a modern Red Scare going on. 4 years ago, Obama was quick to scold Romney on the fact that Russia wasn't our biggest geopolitical threat.
When you were asked what's the biggest geopolitical threat facing America, you said Russia. Not Al-Qaeda, you said Russia. In the 1980s are now calling to ask for their foreign policy back because the Cold War's been over for 20 years.
Boy, a lot can change in just a few years, but I guess not changes in a month, because it wasn't even a month ago that the left cheered as Flynn was fired for lying to Pence about the contents of a phone call. Isn't that weird? How did the contents of this phone call surface? Well, let's take a look at the New York Times timeline. What's this? In the wiretapped phone call? Huh, I'll be. Wouldn't it be strange if this had been reported since before the election? Oh, well, I guess it looks like it was. What are all the Democrats saying about all of this? Ted here seems to think that this is an implication of Trump's ties with Russia. Why? Because a federal judge would have had to have found probable cause. Ben Rhodes seems to think this is the case too. But wouldn't it be weird if this wasn't the case? In fact, it's super weird because it super isn't the case. In fact, not a single judge has to be involved at all when it comes to FISA. See this here? How it says that the president can order the attorney general? You would think that somebody running for Congress would know this. Benny Boy, on the other hand, was working with Obama when this extension was signed. Wouldn't it be weird if a major news story about the DOJ wiretapping journalists existed just a few years back? Well, I guess things are getting a little more weird now because it's real. Now, wouldn't it be strange if the last Attorney General, Loretta Lynch, met with President Clinton on a plane during the election? Oh, what a strange time to be alive that would be if that was the case. Now, here's something you might have been asking yourself at this point. What did Trump mean by turned down by court earlier in his tweet? Well, here's what people think. Let's read a bit from Law News. The entire article is actually worth a read. The stories currently are threefold. First, that Obama's team tried to get a warrant from a regular Article 3 federal court on Trump and was told no by someone along the way, maybe the FBI, as the evidence was that weak or non-existent. Second, Obama's team then tried to circumvent the federal judiciary's independent role by trying to mislabel the issue one of foreign agents and tried to obtain a warrant from the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act courts and were again turned down when the court saw Trump named, an extremely rare act of FISA court refusal of the government, suggesting the evidence was truly non-existent against Trump. And so, third, circumvented both the regular command of the FBI and the regularly appointed federal courts by placing the entire case as a FISA case, and apparently under Sally Yates' DOJ, as a foreign case, and then omitted Trump's name from a surveillance warrant submitted to the FISA court, which the FISA court unwittingly granted, which Obama then misused to spy on Trump and many connected to Trump. Now, regardless of the authenticity of the story, these tweets are an interesting power play. It is a slight win for Trump. On the one hand, if these allegations are true, and the evidence seems to point to it being true, this is the biggest scandal in U.S. history. If the allegations aren't true, Trump loses trust value amongst the public, but completely destroys every person who has made any claims about his ties to Russia. And because the biased, dopey media reports that everything Trump says and does is either a lie or bad, they look foolish either way. If the allegations are true, the cries of baselessness are smashed. If the allegations aren't true, their incessant bleating about Russia makes them look even more dumb and more biased than they have before, if that's even possible at this point. What is interesting about all of this is that all it would take is a handful of folks from a handful of media outlets to read The Art of the Deal, which you can get for $13 to see exactly what Trump is doing. But they won't, because they are stupid, stubborn, and they are ideologues.